The bean in the ear. I doubt you have ever heard the saying, Pandoramus, while I am gone, don't put beans in your ears. Well, I never heard that saying either, and it didn't matter, for I was not planning to do so anyway. Well, a long time ago, when Grandpa was a little boy, possibly age 7 or 8, harvest was beginning on our little farm in central Illinois, just northwest of Maroa. My father had either borrowed or had bought an old tractor-drawn combine with a 5-foot cutter bar. It was run by the power takeoff from the tractor. It was a small machine and therefore a slow process to harvest the beans. But that didn't matter a lot since our farm was small and the bean field was small, probably no more than 30 acres. The field in this story was just east of the house, running all the way to the graveled road and bordered by the lane on the south and the hedgerow on the north. The schoolhouse was in the northeast corner. One day I was waiting in the wagon, which was pulled by our team of horses, when the combine hopper was full of beans, or as the farmer would say, the combine was full in the hopper. I would pull the wagon alongside the combine. Then the combine would empty the load through an auger spout into the wagon, perhaps 20 or 25 bushels at a time. The box on the wagon didn't carry more than 50 bushels of grain, and the wagon was an old horse-drawn version with high wooden spoke wheels and a thin metal rim around the edge of each wheel to bear the weight on the road or in the field. It had a buckboard seat in the front to sit on while driving the horses. It was 3 miles to the Osper elevator where we emptied the wagon and sold the beans. Part of that trip was on the hard road, Old Route 51. See map on page 29. Osper was not a town, but just a grain elevator. As I remember, it looked somewhat like the picture below. Grain elevators in the 1940s were tall buildings, possibly as high as 5 stories, and usually located beside railroad tracks. Their purpose was to buy and store grain. Osper elevators sold and shipped the grain by railroad cars to processing plants such as Staley's in Decatur. They were, and still are, common sights in the grain-producing areas of our country, although their appearance is now far different. We drove the wagon over a scale, and the weight was recorded. Then the horses had to huff and puff to pull the load up the ramp and into the elevator where the grain was emptied by opening the end of the wagon bed. As I remember, the ramp was much steeper than the ramp in this picture. But then again, perhaps it was merely my childhood eyes that made the ramp so steep. There was usually a hoist system which raised the front wheels of the wagon to facilitate the dumping of the grain through the grate in the floor. Then conveyor belts below carried the grain up to storage areas in the building. After emptying the wagon box, we would drive forward down the ramp on the other side of the elevator, turn around, and come back over the scales where the empty weight of the wagon was recorded. The weight difference was then calculated by subtracting the empty weight from the loaded weight. Corn weighs 56 pounds per bushel, and soybeans weigh 60 pounds per bushel. The fall is a dry time of year, and the trip was sometimes complicated by the metal rims becoming loose from the wooden portion of the wheel as the wood shrunk from dehydration. The metal rims would then sometimes fall off the wheel. We would repair this problem during the day with baling wire loops placed around the metal rim and amongst the spokes to hold the rim in place. If it was wet and rainy, then we didn't have that problem, but neither would we be harvesting beans. When it was particularly warm and dry, the treatment was to remove the wheels at night and place them in a horse watering tank. This would cause the wood to swell and then hold the rims tightly in place for a day or two. Let us go back to the story of the beans. While waiting for the wagon to return to load beans from the combine, I would sometimes play in the beans. On this particular day, I was lying down in the wagon, and a bean got into my ear. As I tried to pick it out, the bean just went in deeper. When I got to the house, my mother could see the bean, but she couldn't get it out either. Now, several things needed to be considered. If we pushed harder trying to get it out, the bean would go in deeper into the ear canal. If the bean just stayed there, it would soon start to swell and get tighter as the ear canal is warm and moist. I suppose, given enough time, it would even start to sprout. Mama took me to the doctor's office in Maroa, which was, of course, closed. We then went to the doctor's home, and my mother talked to his wife about the problem. The doctor was in Decatur at the hospital in surgery or on rounds. He was a very busy man, as there were few doctors remaining in the communities during World War II, and this was 1943. My mother left me at the doctor's house, and his wife let me play in the toy room, which was for their son. This was great, for I had never seen so many toys at once, and then to get to play with them was a real treat. It seemed it was some hours before the doctor returned. When the doctor arrived home, he took me to his office and removed the soybean from the ear canal using a hook probe and forceps. We had no phone on the farm, but after a while my mother returned so as to take me back home. How fortunate I was to have had a kindly doctor. His wife was a kindly lady as well. I am sure we thanked them for their help, and my mother paid him for his services. May we also always be good and kindly helpers.